Dear frustrated fellow Nigerian citizens, Benjamin Olorungbemi Adebayo is my name, and this is my direct message to you as we continue to fight the insecurity madness ravaging our country at the moment. And this should be taken as another advice to helping rescue the situation at hand. Of course, I do understand that well-meaning Nigerians such as Omoyele Sowore of African Archer Congress, as well as VDM, Very Dark Men, and other well-meaning comrades have invested different efforts at ensuring that the situation is tamed as much as possible. But since we're still where we are, in that the situation still remains the same, I'm compelled as a true Nigerian, as a patriotic Nigerian, to lend a voice to the ongoing situation in a way that I believe will help us rescue our situation. Please listen and watch in good faith and with an open mind. Dear tired Nigerians, this is my preferred solution to ending banditry without losing our lives and making the government or these systemic enemies win. Whether we agree or disagree on the method to end this national insecurity madness, one thing I sincerely hope for is that Nigerians win in the end and that this insecurity comes to an end. Regardless of our disagreement in methods, I'm sure we all want the same outcome. But as I've observed, our disagreement has only been about the safest and most effective path to get there. My position is simple. If ordinary citizens take it upon themselves to fight heavily armed terrorists in their hideouts, both the terrorists and a failing government will eventually be the winners, while innocent citizens will be the losers. Why do I say this? Imagine a wealthy but autistic young man whose parents hired a personal security to protect him and all his property. After the parents died, the security guard continued receiving a salary from the young man's wealth. Years passed. During that time, thieves repeatedly came to steal from the young man. They attacked his property and made his life miserable. The sad part is that the security guard had all the weapons, training, authority, and the resources needed to stop the thieves, yet he consistently failed to do so. The young man repeatedly complained and begged for protection, but little or nothing changed. Meanwhile, the security guard was not suffering. He continued collecting his salary from the young man's wealth. In fact, he used that money to buy equipment and protect himself from danger because his own welfare was secure. He became less concerned about the suffering of the person he was employed to protect. Now, let me ask you, if you were that young man, what would you do? Would you personally go out with sticks and stones to confront the organized criminals who are armed and dangerous? And that's with your autistic condition. Or would you put pressure on the security guard whose job it is to protect you? For me, the answer is obvious. That young man represents ordinary Nigerian citizens. You, me, our old parents, our siblings, our friends, with whom we've hoped to survive our pains and enjoy at last. The young man's wealth represents Nigeria's resources, taxes, and national wealth. The security guard represents those in government and the security institutions funded by us, the people. The thieves represent the bandits, kidnappers, and terrorist organizations terrorizing innocent citizens. The young man's autism is not about disability. It is a metaphor for the helpless and vulnerable condition of ordinary citizens who do not possess the weapons, training, intelligence network, or legal authority needed to fight sophisticated terrorist organizations. In this situation, if the young man abandons pressure on the security guard and decides to fight the criminals himself, he risks losing both his life and his wealth. In that instance, the thieves win. The negligent security guard also wins because he has escaped responsibility. That is exactly how I see the insecurity situation in Nigeria. We pay government officials, we fund the military, we fund the police, we provide the resources that sustain the entire system. Protecting us as citizens is the primary responsibility. If we excuse them from that responsibility and instead march into the forest and unknown hideouts to fight terrorists ourselves, countless innocent lives will die. The terrorists possess weapons, intelligence, and experience in warfare that you, that I, ordinary citizens, simply do not have. Even if some terrorists are defeated in the process, the cost in innocent lives could be enormous and avoidable. That is why I believe our anger should first be directed toward compelling the government to perform its constitutional duty. If millions of Nigerians peacefully and collectively shut down economic activities, refuse business as usual, and sustain nationwide pressure on government institutions, the political class would be forced to respond. Government rarely ignore pressure when their economy, revenue, and political stability are affected. My belief is that if the entire nation genuinely unites and demand action, the political game surrounding insecurity would end much faster than many people can imagine. Unfortunately, not everyone agrees on this approach. Some will continue with business as usual. I used to rescue such loads on daily survival grounds, but not anymore. That excuse is now lame. Others, out of frustration, may decide to confront terrorists directly, like VDM is currently doing. When that happens, many innocent lives could be lost and would be lost. And that is where my deepest concern lies. I am an advocate of the principle that no innocent citizen should lose his or her life when the government has the capacity and responsibility to prevent it. I love life. I love life. I do not want to lose my life fighting terrorists when those employed and equipped to do so exist. Neither do I want another innocent Nigerian to die so that I can live. We all deserve to survive this terrorism and hardship and live in the radiance of the light and bliss at the end of our tunnel. I cannot celebrate a system that sacrifices innocent citizens while those responsible for the protection watch from distance. But then, if lives must be risked in demanding accountability, I would rather those lives be lost while citizens confront the authorities responsible for the protection than while helpless citizens are abandoned to face terrorists whom the state has failed to defeat. At least then, the struggle is directed at the source of the failure. That is why my conviction remains unchanged, that the government must be held accountable for securing lives and property of Nigerians. Anything that shifts that responsibility from the state to unarmed citizens risks turning victims into soldiers and making ordinary people pay the highest price. That is not victory to me. True victory is a Nigeria where citizens can live safely without being forced to choose between dying at the hands of terrorists or dying while fighting battles the government should have fought on their behalf. Citizens don't have to walk into the bandits' dens with bare hands. Their job is the security operatives. If they lack the capacity, then let willing citizens like me be armed, be equipped. That way, we know it's come to a civic fight. Whatever our decision is, I'm girded and ready. Nationwide industrial action is a must at this point. Private and public greed should step aside at this point. A minimum of 7 days. A minimum of 7 days national down tools is inevitable at this time. And within this period, feeding our hungry have-not brothers should be the responsibility of those who have in surplus. After this fight is won, we will have enough to go around, because our farms and forests will be bandit-free to be tilled. Because after this fight is won, we all can go to bed with both eyes closed. Again, Benjamin Olorunbibi Adebayo is my name. I'm a patriotic Nigerian, a writer, and a teacher. Thanks for watching. Enough is enough.